Hi, my name is Wyatt White and I'm here at Artbeads, and I'm going to show you some very interesting things today. We're going to be using a new knotter tool, new to us anyway. It's the tin cup knotter tool. We'll also be using the battery operated reamer, a rounder tip, and silk and some glue and a whole bunch of other things. So we're going to be making a really elegant pair of earrings. You will notice that they look very similar to the ones that somebody was wearing at the Emmys this past year. So let's get started on this. What we have is we've got some of the beautiful Swarovski pearls. These are a new color, and they've got a very beautiful tint, and then we've got some Swarovski beads as well. We'll be using 22 gauge silver filled half hard wire. So silver filled wire is 10% silver around the outside, and the inside is CDA 220 brass. Now, that's a lot of technical information because I'm kind of a technical guy. But what that means is it's a nice hard wire, so you can actually make your own ear posts. We've pulled from Artbeads vast array of ear nuts, 4 that you can use as a kind of as a guide on which one you would like on this pair of earrings. So getting started, what I want to do is, because we have to glue something, we have to glue a half drilled Swarovski pearl. Now these are kind of tough to find, so go to artbeads.com and that's where you'll find them. So this is halfway drilled, where the other pearls that you would normally string are going to have a hole all the way through. This only has a hole halfway through. And what you can do is glue something to that, put it in, and then make an ear post. We're going to make a little fancier ear post because we want to have a little drop loop underneath it. Now you can buy things like that made, but if you have silver filled wire, you can do much better with it. So I'm just going to straighten this a little bit. You can use a wire straightener. Just a small piece is all you need. Use a cutter, and I'm going to use round nose pliers to make my small loop in the bottom, just like this. And then I'm going to flatten that just a little bit, just like this. Try to make it match as best as I can. This is going to be kind of hidden behind the pearl, so it doesn't have to be too perfect. Then we want to make a bend on one of these out just about like that, and that's going to be the ear post, and this will be the part that goes into a half drilled pearl. So when you're cutting the post that's going to go inside the pearl, you want to cut it a little bit long at first, because it's better to get as much of the wire inside for the glue to be able to hold. See, so that doesn't quite go to where we want it to go. So I'm going to cut a little bit off of that. Just kind of measure it. And it may take a couple of times to get it just right. Just like that. So that's how you want that to fit. Now, if you'll notice, these two are crossing one another. That's the way I like to do it, but you have to make absolutely certain that you don't get any glue in the joint of those two wires. It's just not a good idea. So this is going to want to be bent just like this. I want to bend it before I actually glue it. So that's going to be the loop on the bottom that we're going to hang the next bead from, and then we're going to be knotting with the tin cup knotter to make spaces in between the beads, and you want those spaces to be exactly the same size. Okay, gluing. This is a very, very misused and misdone step in your jewelry making. You really don't want to use the super glues on any Swarovski products, just because the outgassing of the cyanoacrylate, that's the technical term for what the glue actually is, when it's curing, it outgasses, and those outgasses, it makes kind of a clouded effect on the beads and anything else that comes in contact with it. I mean, if you have something that can blow the air, that will work. But I prefer two-part epoxy. Two-part epoxy gives you a cyanoacrylate glue joint is a lot like glass. So it's a very brittle, hard glue joint. Two-part epoxy will give you a movable joint. So it's almost like the old commercials where you have the denture stuff that it moves, but it doesn't come off. That's what you want here, is a movable joint, especially when you're wearing it or something like that. This is going to take a very, very small amount, and you've got about probably 25 to 28 minutes before this gets too hard to be able to use. So now my small end of my new ear wire is going to get a little dab of glue. Smaller amounts are better. And you're just going to put that into the hole and kind of rub it around, roll it in and out, and kind of get it started. And then get a little bit more, kind of like a bit of a bulb on the bottom, and get that nicely allocated in the hole, just like that. And now you're going to want to set this somewhere that you can leave it for 24 hours. So if you had your production line going, you'd be gluing one of these and doing a whole bunch of it, gluing it away from your work surface that you're going to do the other work on, so that nothing touches it for at least 24 hours. It takes 24 hours for this to completely set up. So we're just going to set this over here on something, not on something that we want, because there could be a little bit of glue that would drop. And we're going to get that out of our way completely too. And through the miracle of working on television, I happen to have one that has been fully cured and we're ready to go. So I am using a size 8 silk. And why I'm using size 8 silk is because the Swarovski crystal has a hole in it that will accept a double strand of this. And I'll show you when I'm going to do a double strand. It also fits this pearl once perfectly and will allow us to do the knots. So when you take these off, if they come on a card like this, and they have a needle already attached on one end, and a lot of people will tell you that they're going to stretch the silk. Well, silk doesn't stretch. What you're actually doing is compressing the lay of the stranding. So it's twisted together, and that is it's very loose when you get it. You want to be able to pull it and pull it and pull it, so that, number one, if there's a little bit of a problem with it, it'll break now. And if you'll notice, I'm pulling out all of those little kinks that were done here, and I'm also tightening this down so that your knots, when you tie your knots on something that's been pulled like this, it'll keep the knot tight. So the knot won't, well, it will continue to tighten a little bit, but not much. If you were to tie knots in this on a strand of pearls or a strand of Swarovski pearls, the knots would, with some time, begin to tighten some more, and that's going to make some looseness in between. And we don't want that on a tin cup style earring. So I'm going to tie a little knot in the end, just like that. Then I'm going to go through one of these, and I've set this up to kind of be my guide for what these earrings are going to look like. We're going to want to have distances between the two, between each of the beads. So the first thing that you do is put this through here, and then go through your loop on your freshly made. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to be able to cut this first and ream the end. You need the ear post to be about between 1/2 and 3/8 of an inch, just depending on personal preference. So I'm going to cut that just like that. And then I've inserted an inside cup burr in the battery operated reamer. And this is, it's cupped, and on the inside there's sort of a swirling fan looking indention in there that's going to grind the end of the wire to take all the sharp edges off. And that just goes in here just like this into here, push it down, and then that you place on the end of the ear post, the new ear post. And when you spin it, Then just kind of move the end of the battery operated reamer around and around in about the size of a dime. And then test it and see if you've got all the sharp edges off. And it may take a few swipes at it to be able to get it nice and rounded. Yeah, there you go. So we've gone through the loop, and now we're going to go back through this bead. And you want to test this with whatever size silk that you want to use to make sure that it's going to make it through there. You can ream the beads. You could ream the pearls very easily, but if you try to ream the clear see-through beads, it's going to frost the inside of the hole because the diamond grit has to grind away the crystal, and that will make it look frosted. And sometimes you don't want that. Now, I don't want all of this extra here, so I've got to pull this down and slide this because I want to have plenty of extra to tie with. Okay. All right, so now I've got my ear post connected with silk to my first bead. This I'm going to tie a double knot. You can put a little tiny drop of adhesive right on here to hold the knot, but the double knot's going to hold very well. Okay, we now have this earring prepped so that we can start. I'm going to get some of this out of my way. Now we have to really determine what distance we want in between the next bead. So the best way to do that is to put this up here, and the bead is going to come off I'll explain all of this about the knotter in just a second. So this is going to be here. So I think that's not quite close enough. So the knotter tool comes with this long leg and this adjustable yoke. So there's a fixed yoke, and then this is the adjustable yoke. I don't know why they call it a yoke, but I guess because it has a V in it. So I want it to be a little bit closer, and then you just take this Allen wrench and tighten this down, just like that, and adjust this so that it's straight on through there. Okay, so it's always better before you use this to learn how to use the regular one. it'll be much better for you because this is a modified version of this, and so it takes a little bit of a I'll show you exactly what you have to do, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. So I'm going to grasp this. I'm going to keep this in my right hand. If you're left-handed, you would do this with your left hand. What the knotter does is it allows you to tie a knot on your finger, transfer it onto this awl right here, and then you push up with your thumb while you're pulling, and it ties the knot is around the awl, and you tighten that knot, and then as you push up with your thumb, it's going to push the knot right off and into this yoke and tighten it even more, and then you're done. So this distance here, I'm going to tie the knot. You just wrap around your fingers and bring it right through. Turn this away. Then you're going to pick up the silk just like that. It feels more natural to go this way. The knot won't slide off. So pick it up just like this and put your finger on the side of the needle, not on the end of the needle, on the side of the, excuse me, it's an awl. And then you just kind of slide this up, guide that right into the movable yoke, pull this nice and tight, then pull it in the back yoke, pull back, push up, and the knot releases right there. Okay? So now I can string on the other beads, and that distance is going to remain the same throughout tying the rest of these knots. So the next knot that I tie will omit the distance because I want it right next to the next bead, which is going to be one of these Swarovski pearls. So I can put all of these on. it takes longer to actually do the stringing than it does to do the knotting, if you've mastered the proper way to do the knotter tool. And then learn the adjustable. By the way, the knotter tool does come with complete instructions, so it'll make it easier. So for me, I like to, you have to keep your hands clean because you're using white silk, and white silk is just like a white blouse. If you have a little bit of body oil or something, it's going to be a problem. So you pull this down and kind of snug it a little bit. Put this in your hand. We're going to tie the exact same knot. So I tied the knot. I'm going to transfer it now to the awl, but I'm going to not go into that, into the adjustable one because I don't want there to be any space. So you just put that there, pull back, push up, and it unloads the knot right next to it. Okay? Then you're going to tie another knot. I'm going to go a little faster now because that's what this tool is about. So I'm going to bring it up into here, pull back, and release. Drop the next bead, tie the knot. I'm going to omit the movable one, pull back, push up. Wrap this around. Now this one I'm going to come up through here because I want another distance. And the good thing is you don't even have to worry about that distance. You can use the other knotter to do this, but you really have to be paying attention. With this one you can be talking on the phone, watching TV, but you do have to pay a little bit of attention. Now we're going to draw this up here, and you can notice that how these earrings are taking shape literally right before your eyes. Omit it because you want the knot nice and tight right up next to that bead. Whoops. That's always fun. So, okay, you have to pay a little more attention. Drop this down. You're probably wondering by now, how are we going to finish this? Well, 2 more beads and I'm going to explain it. Like I said, this is sort of a version of what we saw on the Emmys, because ours, of course, has crystals in it as well, and is going to have a little bit different end. And this is going to be the last one with the, oops. So that's what happens if you're not paying attention and you get it a little bit, you let that bead pop out. So it's going to take just a second to undo this. Be very careful when you try to undo the knot here because you don't want to start the silk to start fraying from where the knot is, because we don't want that. And so I'm just kind of dragging the knot with my thumb until I can get a hold of it, and then you can just pull that out. Don't try to reconnect this to the awl. Just completely take the knot out because chances are you might get it in there backwards, and then the knot won't tighten up. It won't slide the way that this is doing. So if you're doing this wrong and you're having a really hard time getting the knot to slide, you're probably tying the knot incorrectly. So be careful of that. If you noticed, I'm keeping the beads right here so that the next one is right at my fingertips. That'll help speed things up. All right, so now pay more attention and have it come right up into there, and don't let it pop. There we go. Then pull back, push up. All right, one more. And the click that you hear is just me letting go. That's just something I've always done. I do a lot of trade shows and it gets people's attention. So now one more knot here. All right, so now suddenly we have what's looking like an earring that's really long and pretty fabulous. All right, so I'm going to cut this off. I would now dab a little bit of adhesive on there as well, and I'm going to just cut this at about that length. And I don't want that to be like unpleasant looking. So I'm just going to take and very carefully with the tip of this start to fray the end. And I find that just grasping it and getting it apart, and you can make a little silk fluff ball at the end that kind of finishes it off nicely. Now, not everybody loves the fluff ball, but I think it looks really cool. And the size 8 silk gives a little bigger fluff ball. And you can kind of clean it up a little bit, and then take your scissors, a good sharp pair of scissors, and just kind of trim that a little bit to be a little bit more circular. All right. So now we've got our fluff ball, and we can cut this off as close as we can get without endangering the knot. And we have, my opinion, a pretty fabulous earring going here. And now we only need about 15-20 minutes to make the other one. So pretty fun earring with just a few beads. Your cost will be fairly low on it, and you're able to just pump these out once you get the general knowledge of this. All right, so I wanted to show you what it's going to look like if you were to drill one of these clear crystals. Not drill, bad terminology. The reamer tip that comes with the battery-operated reamer, it comes with 2 tips. One that you're going to ruin because you won't follow the directions and use it underwater. You don't have to be underwater, just the bead and the tip of this underwater. The diamond abrasive that's attached to this mandrel is attached with glue. It's not your normal type of glue, but if it heats up, heating it up means running this without a little bit of liquid to keep it cool will ruin the tip. So then you'll have the other tip. The tip should last a very, very long time, even if you're reaming a lot of beads. So we're going to put one of these next to one of these and then put some string in it so you can see how it's going to look. So if you wanted to use thicker silk, you can actually do that now, but there's a little bit of a cost to that, and you'll see that in just a second. Doesn't take very long. As you notice, there's sort of a little cloud of the ground up crystal in there. This reams the hole out bigger very quickly. It doesn't take very long at all to get the bead hole a great size. So you can think of the gemstone beads that sometimes don't have the same size holes in either side. This fixes that. Dry that off a little bit. All right, so you can see that it definitely has changed the look of the bead because now the whole of the bead has been ground down. So it's going to have a fine ground off look to it. Frosted is the proper terminology for it. So it does change the look of the bead, but now you can actually get a bigger silk through it, if that's what you would like to do. Or you could just get the proper size silk. Once you put this in there, you can kind of see the difference here. If you're putting a white silk in it, doesn't matter as much. But if you have a colored silk, it's definitely going to be a different color than the other beads within the strand or within the earring. So battery-operated bead reamer, with the rounder tip for the ear post, the proper glue for this, and we have one other thing that I'm going to do, and that is to string up some of these beautiful check beads onto a thick piece, even thicker piece of silk. Artbeads carries just about every color known to man in the silk, so you'll be able to find any complementary color of silk to go with all of the zillions of beads that they have. Now, the thicker the silk, the harder it is to pull. I sometimes will actually stand on it on the floor to pull it. But again, we're doing the same thing. It's not actually stretching, it's collapsing the twist. So I just want you to see what you can do with the tin cup knotter, other than, of course, pearls, because it has uses everywhere. And the availability now of the different sizes of larger silk and the colors, it just makes everything possible. I love it. So this is a size 14 going through these check crystal bead, or the check beads. And we chose the pink, the light pink, for these turquoisey, greenish turquoisey looking, very interesting shaped beads. So this would look great just like this or regularly knotted, but once you start exposing the silk in between the beads, it becomes really something very interesting that you can have a lot of fun with. So I'll knot a couple without the space, which you could also do just like this. So put a knot there. You could also put multiple knots in between. People don't always remember that, but you can certainly do that. So let's tie one more like this, and then we'll tie one with the space. So utilizing a small strand like this, you could literally make a necklace, depending on the distance you decide to put in between them, and have a very inexpensive necklace that you've spent very little time doing. So if you're selling your products, again, your time is everything. This particular knotter lets you be able to do stuff like that, just very quick and easy. So the knot looks great. I think that the added silk in between looks even better. You can also open this up and do some crazy things within that, and then let it twist back up. So you can add pieces of other silk. Obviously it's going to fall eventually, but you can make some really cool looking things. So a couple more knots like this, and we will let you be on your way to your next adventure with a new, hopefully a new type of necklace in your armory of necklace making skills. So every other one you use the extender, and then the other you omit the extender. And notice I'm not putting the knotter down each time. That really cuts into your production time. And then just in minutes, you've got some fun stuff going on. So this is Wyatt White with Artbeads. Very happy to be here, and we'll see you soon.